like, why are you worrying about this? I'm like, well, I don't know, because I'm a woman and we just worry about things that we don't need to worry about. That's just what we do. And so, but I think like
I got that on recording, so
it's gonna be a meme now.
that one, I'm dropping that one. Okay, welcome to another episode of the RV Voice. We have another influencer for you. They've been doing this for about 3 years. They have 2 kids, 1 dog, and they've been doing this in a 2017 Keystone Sprinter that is not meant for full-time, and they've been told several times because of that or whatever. But they love their RV, and we're going to talk to them here shortly. But anyway, guys, if you haven't heard of RVFix, you guys probably need it. Why? Because this will help you with your service, your RV service. RV service typically takes about 90 days. Repair event cycle time on average. Well, we have got that down in the 20s, if not the teens. So, sorry, someone made some noise back here. But if you want a discount, this is at $200 a year, $199, right? That's less than $17 a month. But guys, this will go up. So use promo code RV Voice if you want that. You want help with your RV service. You can get a master RV technician on the phone, walk you through everything. If not, you can also get, if it does not help you through that, he can actually get you guys a repair and an accelerated repair plan. We can talk more about that. Check out bishfix.com. But if you want the discount, use promo code RV Voice. That being said, we are going to welcome James and Kestra. I don't know if you guys know that name, but you probably heard of the Boundless Bronnekes. So let's bring them in here. I got to toggle the right buttons here. Hello, and welcome, guys. How are you today?
We're good. Great.
That was a good pitch. That's a good deal. Listening to you, I'm like, we need to probably get that.
I come from a sales background. I've been selling for a while.
We're doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. My coffee's finally kicking in, so that is good. It's a little early. I usually schedule these for the afternoon because I usually don't wake up until about noon. I'm up and at work. Sorry. I'm up and at work at 8, but my body doesn't like really fully flourish until like noon.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're just a ghost of yourself until noon.
There you go. Yeah, I'm just walking around like a zombie half the time. Like nobody talk to me until this caffeine kicks in. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining the show. I really appreciate it. We've been kind of going back and forth for a couple months. You guys were hunting. I'm glad you were chasing your dreams and doing all that. So no foul to me. I was not upset at all, and you actually succeeded in both your hunts, it looks like. So
yeah,
thumbs up to that.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Well, if you guys don't mind, let's kind of get into it a little bit. I'm going to talk about your personal journey here. So like, how did you guys what inspired you to transform or transition into full-time RVing? What were you doing before? And then can you share your story about how it all started? Like where did you get your RV? Why'd you get your RV? What really kind of kicked it all off?
I think the main inspiration is like, this guy's pretty good looking, and I didn't get to see him enough. So
that's right.
So James worked for the Army as a firefighter and a captain, and so he was gone a lot.
Appreciate the service.
Thanks, sir.
I worked for a hospital doing fundraising, and so we were both, full time. He was at work at least 48-hour shifts, and then wildland fires, he'd be gone for 2, 3, 4 weeks in the summer. And I worked a 9 to 5, which is not a 9 to 5. A 9 to 5 is really like 7 to 7, basically, when you have kids to drop off at different places.
Yeah.
So then all the COVID stuff hit, and I was working from home. The kids were home. He was still at work, and our thing was always that we wanted to be outdoors more. We had like a tow behind trailer that we got when our son was 2.
Mm-hmm.
And we literally got to use it 4 times a year, maybe, if we could figure it out, because he worked every other weekend and I only had weekends off. And we kept talking about, we'll buy some land or build a cabin or do something else. And it just, kind of never happened. And so we had this perfect little 2 kids, 2 nice cars, a little house, good jobs. And we were fine and we were happy, but we were just like, we aren't doing the stuff we really love to do. And honestly, that fateful day, right? We literally got a letter in the mail, like a marketing letter from some realtor who I'm sure sent out a bajillion letters. And they were like, hey, this is how much you could get for your house. And we lived in Reno, Nevada. and the market was pretty good. And I was like, honey, what if we did that? And he's like, I don't know. I mean, it's a huge step. And he probably was more on board than me for a long, before that.
I was way on board, way before. I was going through for a couple of years, just a big transition in the fire department, the Army, I wasn't happy at work anymore. And the latter part of my career, it was civilian for the Army. So after active duty, I transitioned over to civilian time. And because I was civilian with the DoD service, you can kind of bounce, if there's an opening and you qualify, you can kind of bounce around the system all over the world. So it's kind of nice. So we kind of had this idea, I'm over where we're at. I'm tired of working with the people I'm working with. We want to do all of this. I had 2 chiefs that really wanted me to come work for them in places we've never been. One was in Kansas and one was in Alabama, places we've never been. So we're like, hey, if we do this, let's just sell the house. We ended up selling everything we own. And our goal was just to do maybe a year. 6 months to a year was our thought. Right. And sure enough,
look at you now.
Look at us now.
It literally came down to we had a realtor come over, and she's like, "You could actually sell your house for a lot more than what this other guy told you." And we were like, "Oh, well, that's cool."
Yep.
And we had an acre property, and we're standing on the property, and we were like, "He's like, what do you think?" Because I'm usually the risk averse. I don't want to. And I was like, "Okay, well, in a year, will we regret not doing this super cool thing and look back and be like, remember that time we almost went out and explored the country, and we'll just be here in this house still and then." So we decided to do it. A week before, I was going to put in my notice at work on a Monday before they did a mass layoff at the hospital. People got laid off, including me. And I was like, okay, Lord, thank you.
We'll take it.
We made the right
choice. All right. Oh man. So yeah, it was kind of the stars aligned a little bit. Then it sounds like it was you kind of already had it in the works, in the mind. I have it all the time. The 9 to 5, the normality of it all. There's so many more ways to live life now. It's not structured like that because we have the opportunity where there's never been more of an opportunity to do this full-time RV life than it ever has before. You know what I mean? You can make money with just a laptop, just a cell phone, whatever it may be. You don't have to be anywhere,
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah, commendable to you guys that you did it. 6 months to a year, that's a good starting point, just see if it works. And now you're 3 years into the game.
Yeah, over 3 years now. Yeah, we started when we first started looking, there's a bunch of influencers out there, and at the time we were just RV family. So I remember there was 3 or 4 channels that I went through all of their videos, all their highlights, watching their families travel all over. I'm like, we could be doing. When I resigned on September 11th, 2021, and I had it several years before I could get back into my time, and it just made sense to us. Let's do this. Let's see what happens. Long story short, we started traveling, being places. We had right around Nevada as every state we'd been to.
Yeah.
Right. If it touched Nevada, we had kind of been there. Outside of that, minus being on deployments and whatnot, we had never been outside of that little circle. So yeah, we started traveling, and we made it all the way to Florida for the very first time. And she signed us up for this. It was called a nomad rally.
Oh yeah, we met other families.
We met 12 other families, and while we were there, we started kind of seeing how people actually make money.
We were like, maybe we could do this.
And 3 or 4 of the people that have been doing it long term, they're like, you know what you guys should do is you should start your own RV channel, because my dad was a carpenter his whole life. And so the inside of our rig, we completely redid. We redid the whole island. We redid all the trim. We took everything out. She repainted everything. We did a bunch of upgrades to it. And they're like, you guys did all this? We're like, yeah. She's like, there's so many people that want to know how to do this stuff. I didn't even know this was possible. Maybe you guys should start your own little channel.
Yeah, so now I basically just follow you around when I'm like, hey, people don't know that. Do that again. Hold on.
That's good content.
Right? Yeah. Well, and when we first started, I feel like, so we went into California for a month and visited some friends and family, and then, came across Utah, which was awesome, but we'd been to Utah before. And then we got to one of our big goals. I think we were 4 months in, right before Christmas that year, and we boondocked on the beach on Padre Island National Seashore outside of Corpus Christi, Texas, for 2 weeks. And we were just like, this is it. We are doing it. We had no cell service. We had nothing. There apparently was like a Portuguese man-o-war jellyfish invasion, and we were just letting our kids. We had no idea. We were
swimming
like,
in the water. And they're like,
they were like, there's lots of these black things, and we were like, don't touch them. but it was awesome. So for the first almost 6 months, James's dad caravanned with us in his motorhome. Nice. He took time off work and he came with us. So I got really good at making reservations and figuring out RV parks because I had to have 2 sites everywhere we went. But it was really cool. He got a ton of time with the kids. And then after 6 months, he was like, okay, guys, I actually do still have a job.
I got to go back to work.
To go do some stuff.
Yeah.
I think that was one of that experience still. We want to go back at some point and do the beach again now, knowing everything we know.
Yeah. Maybe not for 2 weeks, because we stayed out there for 2 weeks. And even though it was amazing, the salt, you're like right on the water. There's like 60 miles of beach and you're like a mile in between the next camper. But the salt water, the salt air, it destroyed our bikes that we had at the time. Yeah. But we probably wouldn't stay a full 2 weeks next time. We'll do a week though for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll come back to favorite experiences and all that. But it's really cool that your dad got to go along with you guys. Yeah, I've heard of families kind of caravanning like that, but that's it's an experience that none of y'all are going to forget for sure. How old are your kids, by the way?
10 and 7.
Yeah.
So when we started, Wesley was
they were 4 and 7.
7 and 4.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They're starting to remember a lot more. They don't know that yet, obviously.
And Ellie, we ask them all the time, like questions about what we call our old life. And now Ellie doesn't even really, she was at that age where
she just turned 4 when we
she doesn't remember any of our old life. All her memories now that she does remember are us on the road.
Interesting. We're going to come back to the kids too, but first, let's talk about preparation and planning, because this is no joke. You guys had like a little bit of sign of God, the stars aligned and all that stuff. But like, how did you really go about picking your first RV? What steps did you take to prepare to full-time RV? How did you choose your first RV? What advice would you give someone selecting their first RV to do something like this?
Yeah, that's a lot of good ones.
We thought we were going to get a motorhome. Yeah. When we first started, we watched a few families and we were like, we're getting a motorhome. You can go to the bathroom while you're driving. It's perfect.
Yeah, you can make food while we're driving.
So we were looking at motorhomes, and then we were looking at our...
I almost said you could make me a sandwich while I'm driving, but...
hey.
I think, we were looking at motorhomes, and then we were looking at our budget. And so those didn't align great because motorhomes are very expensive. Mm-hmm. And there's not a lot of motorhomes that even have like bunk beds, let alone like a separate space for the kids. And so, we'd been trying to find one, looking. And then I think one day we already had our truck. We have a diesel, a Chevy 3500. And I was like, well, honey, what if we looked at fifth wheels? Because we already have the truck to tow it. And then if we don't like it, we could sell those and go to a motorhome. But with how expensive trucks have gotten, if we sell the truck right now and then we decide we want to go the other way, it's going to be way more expensive to do that. Mm-hmm. So then we were like, okay, and we like changed our focus, but there was hardly any inventory.
There wasn't. If anybody's shopping in 2021, 2022, they know what was out there, and everything was skyrocket high. But one of the things that actually resonated with me was a lady we ran into. She's like, what's nice about a fifth wheel is that when you finally make it to your destination and you get all set up, you have way more room on the inside. In addition to that, I could build anything and fix anything, but I'm not a mechanic. So if I were to do a motorhome, I would have to...
Big old engine.
I'm sure we could figure it out, but we have friends that you see all the time posting like stranded on the side of the road or, trying to fix their motors. And I just don't know that. So it started to kind of click like, well, if we are going to do this at the time for at least a year, when we get set up, we want it to feel cozy home that we can all kind of feel like comfortable in. And like we do movie night, like we're big into the movies as family. So like we wanted this little living room here that we could all kind of be in. And we also knew that we wanted a bunk room
for the kids,
so they had their space, but also us, like there's a lot of times we'll be watching a show in the living room and 5 feet away in their bedroom, they're watching their movies. But that was kind of important to us when we started looking.
Yeah.
But by the grace of God, like we're having trouble finding a fifth wheel that kind of fit our needs. And then one day at work,
I worked with this 80-year-old man who's super nice. He's like, "Oh, I got a friend that's selling a fifth wheel," and I was like, "Okay, Jerry, I'm sure it's great."
Of course, his name's Jerry.
Probably not what we guess. Great guy, super funny. He actually was an NFL player for a while, but anyway,
no kidding.
So he told me,
shout out to Jerry.
I got this buddy, and I was like, "Jerry, I don't think your buddy Dave's fifth wheel is what we're looking for," because I just assumed Jerry's 80, and so they're probably selling something else like that. So I was like, thanks. And then I'm looking on like Facebook Marketplace, and this ad pops up that somebody had posted for their fifth wheel. And I'm like, oh, this is Dave. This is Jerry's friend Dave.
This is what we're looking for.
It's this trailer. So I was like, hey, Jerry, give me Dave's number. I saw his at it. And he was not as old as Jerry. He was in his 60s, but his wife was younger, and they had I think 7-year-old. And he was like, yeah, we're going to get rid of the fifth wheel. We spend more time up at Tahoe. I just bought this boat. So he gave us a really good deal on it. I mean, we were looking, the only other one we found locally in Reno, and Reno's got several dealerships, it was brand new. This one was a couple years old, but they wanted twice as much for the new one. And we were like, well, that seems dumb. Why would we do that? Like, it's, a couple years old, and we can, and he included like a hitch and a generator and like all this other stuff.
And one of the things
I don't need it.
Yeah, it didn't.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was super important to us when we hit the road was we wanted to make sure we were debt free.
Yeah.
And so buying a brand new $80,000 to $100,000 rig was just it wasn't feasible to us. It didn't seem smart. Yeah. And if you do your research, there's a lot of brands out there, you're always fixing something. There's always problems going on. So I didn't want to spend $85,000 on that one rig we were looking at and then have to fix a bunch of stuff. Plus paying $85,000 off was going to be a whole lot harder. And instead we ended up paying this trailer and our truck off before we hit the road with the proceeds from the house. And so we knew we thought we were going to be out a year. And we didn't want to have any debt. We didn't want to have anything holding us down, like, oh, we can't go out to dinner this week because, whatever. We got bills to pay. And that was kind of one of the big goals we had, was like, hey, with the proceeds from the house, from the yard sales, from everything we're selling, we want to make sure that we have a comfortable, and we came up with a number, and I think it was like $4,000 a month is what we wanted to say. Like, that'll cover our food, our gas, our RV resorts. Yeah,
we'll budget, but
RV parks, we'll budget, but we wanted to make sure we had enough from all of the things we sold. And we had our camper, we had quads. I mean, we had an acre, so we had a whole bunch of equipment. And so that was kind of one of our big goals, which I would highly recommend to anybody getting into this type of lifestyle, is try to have as little as debt as possible, because it's kind of sad and we see it a lot, especially people ask us all the time, what do you do for a living and how can we afford this? Because now we're going back to our old lives because we didn't budget correctly. We didn't think it was going to be expensive, which I think is one of the biggest misconceptions about being out on the road, is people think it's going to be cheap. And if you come from an area like the West, like where we came from, like Northern Nevada, RV parks and campgrounds were between like $15 and $25 a night, right? And so to us, we're thinking, holy cow, we could do this. But as soon as you hit, like when you're going from West, and when you hit Texas,
when you get to those good winter spots,
when you start to get to what we didn't know what was snowbirds at the time. Now we know what snowbirds are. All the prices rocket up. And once you hit Texas, like Nevada is like almost 93% public land, where the opposite in Texas, it's like 91 or 92% is private land.
So you can't boondock.
So you're not boondocking like we've always been accustomed to. I mean, there's places to go, but you're paying a lot more for RV resorts. Like it was like a good deal if you found a spot for $50 a night. But then we kept going south. And once you get into Florida, there's nothing for $50 a night in Florida in the wintertime.
Really budgeting, I think, really, and looking at what's important to you, like in a house or like you would with anything. So I know one of the challenges for us is James is 6'4". So we need bigger stuff. Like
and 220 pounds of pure muscle.
Yeah,
don't forget that part. Thank you.
So
it's hard for me to walk around. Yeah.
So like there was stuff for me that I was like, oh, that's so that was where like the motorhome thing too, that we were like, well, if we have a motorhome, we need to tow a vehicle.
Yep.
And then I had a Tahoe at the time, and then we had our truck, and we were like, well, if we're going to tow a Tahoe, it's got to be a pretty decent sized engine on the motorhome to be able to do it. But we didn't want to buy a tiny little car to tow behind, because we were like, you literally won't fit in it. Like that won't be comfortable. So I think like those are some of the things too, thinking about that. And that's why we went fifth wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Also was, the higher ceilings. It feels more spacious. You have a little bit more room. Granted, you're heavier. And we've met a lot of families that full-time in travel trailers. And I mean, they're totally fine. I think for us, we like the fifth wheel better because it feels more like a little tiny home. But I know you asked about the preparation for all the like getting rid of everything. And our like mantra during the couple months before was, it feels overwhelming because it's overwhelming. Because it was like, we have to get rid of everything. And I'm pretty good at like, I'm a purger. I go through stuff. I get rid of stuff. So I'm perfect for RV life because I'm always going through things and getting rid of things. But, you do accumulate things, and you do have memories, and you have stuff that you're like, oh, what do we do with this? And, we just kind of had to really be like, what do we need? And then we would set aside stuff and then go through that again and be like, okay, we didn't touch this for the last 3 weeks. Do we really need it? Or do we really care about it? Or, if there was a toy, the kids were like, oh, it's my favorite toy ever. And then we're like, well, let's just put it over here. And then they don't ask for it for, 2 weeks. And you're like, you don't need it. They're not even going to notice. It's just because it's something going away. So I think that was kind of how we went through stuff. I read a decluttering thing the other day, and there's like the Marie Kondo, if it doesn't bring you joy, if it's not useful, if it's not this, and this one was way better. It said, if there was poop on that item, would you wipe the poop off because you need to keep it, or would you just get rid of it?
Yeah, I've heard that before.
What would we keep?
I mean, there's stuff
our kids, maybe. I wipe poop off of them. I guess
you did keep
it. I wipe the poop off my shoes, right?
I guess.
There's some stuff,
So what you're saying to me is that big closet up there, if there was poop on it from some mysterious thing
on all my clothes,
we would just get rid of all of them.
Yeah. I mean, I would still need clothes, like to wear.
I remember that.
So I think like that was really helpful. And I think for us, we tried to make money on stuff that we were getting rid of because we wanted to build up our budget as much as possible. So we kind of segmented things into like, what are the big ticket items that we have, right? Like we had a travel trailer that was in really good condition, and we just sold it private party and, put a little good chunk of change there. We had my car, which I think we ended up taking to CarMax because they had a really good
they had a good
trade-in thing going on, or sale thing going on. And then like our quads, some of our other stuff. And then we did Facebook Marketplace for more like individual, I was like, if it's not worth at least $50, we're not even going to worry about it right now. We're just going to, because we had a yard sale during like a community yard sale, and it was a waste of our time. It was a joke. I mean, honestly, like we were like, oh, these are brand new snowshoes. Winter's coming up. They're worth $400 for 2 pairs. And people are like, you take $4, like, because it's a yard sale, So I would just like really focus, if you're looking at getting rid of stuff and trying to make money, like focus on the stuff you have that has actual value, not you think it's valuable. Like we talk with our kids about that a lot. Whenever my son's like, oh, I could sell this for X amount. And I'm like, nobody's going to buy that for that much, bud.
Yeah. That was smart.
So that was a lot of our prep. I mean, selling the house was the big thing. That's what it hinged on. And our home sale took longer than it should have. It took 90 days instead of 30 days because there was some error with the county on a property line that was this little sliver of our 1 acre property from the 70s. So the house had been bought and sold several times, and it never came up until it was our turn to sell the house. But we got it figured out, but it kind of gave us that extra time to go through stuff. So it was a blessing in the end. And we weren't moving into an RV in July and 100 degrees in Nevada. So
Wow. Okay. So you guys had a whole lot And you, like you said, you kind of being the fact that you are kind of a what do you call it? A rummage, like you kind of rummage things out, go through them, get rid of them, go through them, kind of do that. If you do that continuously, I moved myself across the country last April, so a year and a half ago ish, and I'm still trying to get rid of stuff. I'm like, I do not have the space that I used to have because I lived in one house for 7 years, and then you just accumulate stuff you don't even know you do. I mean, I got tools, I have motorcycles, I have things that I'm not getting rid of, but other things that I'm like, I haven't touched it in a year. Like, why do I have it? And that's not easy to do when you're, husband and wife, and then you have also 2 kids, and then you have, pets, and then you have toys, and then, 4-wheelers and stuff like that. Like you said, I mean, an acre patch, you fill that acre patch. It doesn't take long.
Yeah. Oh, it doesn't take long.
No. And I grew up in the Midwest where hoarding was kind of a thing because there was you couldn't just order from Amazon.
Right.
You couldn't get that quick. You just took it off the Jeep in the back to fix the Jeep in front,
That's right. It serves a purpose. We just don't have that purpose right now. I'll need it in like 5-10 years. So I'll just put it on the back lot.
Yeah.
There you go. It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, along with the transition into this life of the full-time RV life, there's a different daily life, different routines, different challenges, different solutions, right? What do you think what does a typical day look like for you guys now compared to what it did? And how do you manage everyday tasks, cooking, cleaning, repair, maintenance, whatever it may be, laundry, all those things, homeschooling? We'll get into that as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot easier. I mean, we don't commute anymore because we work from home. So that's like, I used to drive with kid drop off and getting to my office. I had at least 45 minutes one way. So I was spending an hour and a half just driving. You worked an hour away, and then he was on shift for 48 hours. So we don't have that stuff. I know, right? Yeah, we don't have that stuff that we have to do anymore. And so, we also aren't going into like official jobs. So if we don't want to get up and like get ready, we don't have to get ready for work. We get up, we have our coffee, we, decide if we want to get dressed or if I want to work in my pajamas that day or what we have going on. So there's a lot more flexibility for us. And that's also because of, how we work in the jobs we have. Like clearly, if you have a job where you have set hours, you still have to have your set hours. But, and homeschooling, you mentioned, that's so much different than looking at your kids going to school. And, my mom was a teacher, my best friend's a teacher. And we've talked to tons of people about this as well. And homeschooling it's just different. It doesn't take as long. We also don't ever really stop. Like we have our curriculum that we do and we have our school time. But then our kids are always doing stuff. Like they're going to be part of a craft fair next weekend. And so I'm like, find the stuff you want. We're ordering it. We're making budgets. We're doing all this stuff. That's not their homeschool. We still are doing their normal homeschool like curriculum, but that's them learning other skills and other stuff. So it's less of like the sit down and work, sit down and learn. And it's more of like experiencing things and actually doing them.
That took a little bit of time too, because when we first started, we were under the impression in the public school, right? Like you got to sit down at a desk and she built their name tags.
Our kids had name tags.
They had name tags on their desk. They had pencils and papers.
I made them say the Pledge of Allegiance every day at the beginning of school.
Wesley, our boy is super patriotic. He loved it. There's a couple Pledge of Allegiance outside, but it was crazy. But what it did was
it crazy? Is
that it was the word absolutely you would use? Crazy. It was horrible because
I cried. They cried.
I cried. I don't know. But then we started to realize, wait a minute. Homeschooling isn't about teaching public school in your home. It's about, actually learning the things that we think are important. Of course, we have the backbone of your reading, writing, math, but then we do so much more. Like when we went all the way from Florida Keys all the way up to Bangor, Maine, we did like American Revolution and the Civil War as part of our schooling. And we stopped at almost every battlefield. We stopped at like 2 of George Washington's actual houses, one at Valley Forge. I told the story the other day where like we walked in and the Rangers like, hey, this was his house for 2.5 years. But when you walk in, we don't tell everybody this, but if you go up the stairs, that handrail is the original handrail. So George Washington grabbed that handrail. So like,
that's when you cried. He was like, oh my God.
So like the kids, you know, and they're feeling that. Yeah, America. That's right.
I feel America.
That's true.
But so we do a lot of that, and we do a lot of financial stuff with our kids and ourselves. We do a lot of entrepreneurial stuff, but also back to
like our
routine. Like every single morning, like we wake up, we have our coffee, a coffee pot starts cooking probably around 7, I think is what we got the timer set for now. We get up, we chill out. We're going through, we kind of do ebbs and flows like everybody with physical fitness and health. And we're in a good one right now to where, so we're waking up, we're working out in the morning. We started a new routine.
Our kids started working out with us.
Our kids are working out with us now. We're running a lot more. So we do that first thing in the morning. And then typically we have our meetings. We have meetings every single day. And then we get into building our content for some of our clients and some of our organic stuff. And then as soon as we get a lot of that knocked out, we just go chill. Like today, we're going to work on projects. You brought up maintenance. Like I'm really big into the maintenance. We do in some sort of way have the traditional, what's the word I'm looking for? Traditional like chores, I guess. Like I do roles. Our roles, traditional roles, where I do all the maintenance. I try to do all the maintenance.
So I fixed that drawer the other day.
You did. She took a drawer out of my bedroom and flipped it upside down, used the nail gun, tacked it all back together. I was really proud of you. I did. But so maintenance, we also, because of the military, we had every single day on shift, you have your maintenance checklist, and it is so redundant, but it has to be checked off every day, right? So there's a lot of things that for 18 years that I worked with the military, like that was kind of ingrained into me. So there's a lot of stuff that we check on a routine basis, on like a daily, not a daily anymore. It's more, especially because one of the things we've absolutely changed up in this lifestyle, which I would highly recommend to anybody that wants to go full time, is don't jump into it like what we did. We were like places 2 days, then we travel, 3 days, travel, 2 days, travel. Now, and then we got burnt out in 6 months. And there was a lot more maintenance. We were busting cables a lot more. And so anyways, now we stay places longer. Like a week is like a really short stay for us. Like we like stay, because also when you get into this world, you realize there's their daily price, there's a weekly price, and then there's a monthly price. So if you really like the place and there's stuff you can do, snag the month price if you can, because then you could actually, instead of constantly being like, okay, hey, we got to go to Zion again because this is the last time we're leaving tomorrow, and instead of it there being that burden, right? Like, and going to the next. But like what I'm saying is like you could chill out. Like, hey, we're not doing anything for the first week we're here, because this is real life. So we're gonna work on the trailer. I'm gonna get some of the outside washed and get it polyglowed up, and then next week we're gonna go to Zion, and then we're gonna go to the burger shop, and then we're gonna go to jiu-jitsu, and we're gonna do all those things. But then we're just gonna chill out. So the maintenance side of things, I do a lot of that. We check we do a lot of walkarounds, but part of our channel is doing maintenance. So it's a little bit easier for me to be like, hey, I got to go check these things, come tag along. Oh, hey, this is broken. Let's do a video on this. Because if we're having this problem, there's hundreds of people having this problem. So that's how we do the maintenance.
Kind of our, so I feel like every day is usually like coffee, number one, right? You got to start with coffee, workout,
maybe sometimes 2 cups,
sometimes workout, homeschool, we work, and then have some family time with our kids, and or go to the grocery store, right? Like you still got a grocery shop. Just because you live on the road doesn't mean you don't have to do the boring stuff still.
We do at nighttime on our current routine, and we've done this a lot for a long time, is we have like a nighttime meditation we have with the kids, the kiddos. So we get to a certain spot, timers go off, we start yelling around the house, hey, it's time to clean up. We put our phones away and we turn the TVs off, and then there's like about an hour of just like chill out time.
Is that when I fall asleep on the couch usually?
It's usually when you fall asleep on the couch, and we get everything kind of cleaned up, and then we go into like a quick little, it's like 15-minute guided meditation, nighttime meditation we do with the kids. It's breathing and whatnot. And then as soon as we're done with that, it's usually off to bed.
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys got it down pat. Sounds like.
That's experience. 3.5 years on the road. Things change.
And then there's days where I'm like, honey, the sewer pipe fell off. Just kidding. We can't do anything we were going to do because we got to fix that. So
that's true. Yeah. We hit a bear in Southern California and it ripped all our sewer pipes off. Like I fought fire for 15 years in California and I saw one bear in 15 years.
Day 3 on the road. We hit a bear.
A bear ran right out of the road on 44 and right underneath our trailer. Black pipes and sewer everywhere. And so, yeah, you got there's those days.
Yeah.
So you have
elusive creatures. They're elusive creatures. I haven't seen them either. I've been out hunting for them. I can't find them.
Right? And then
people say they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? They're in my garbage can. I lived in Alaska for a summer and I didn't see one bear and people would be like, "Oh, go over to the dump." I'm like, "What?"
There they are. Oh, shoot. One thing that I saw, I was actually talking to Llama Adventures the other day, Leah. I think it might have been yesterday. I don't remember. 2 days ago. Anyway, she said one major challenge from going from city to city or wherever, traveling state to state, is grocery shopping. And what it was, the fact that no grocery store is the exact same. Doesn't matter if they're the same name. I was like, that's a good point. Because just in town here, I haven't found really a grocery store that I really enjoy because they're, in my opinion, their way they're laid out is awful. So you guys being on the road, I'm sure your typical 45-minute trip turns into an hour and a half to 2 hours because you don't know where anything is.
Yeah, we never used to go to Walmart. When we lived in Reno, we just didn't. We went to our local grocery store. And then since getting on the road, we do a lot of the Walmart pickups. Yeah. And we eat pretty organic. We try to eat pretty healthy. And so what we'll do is I'll go and I'll do the online order for the pickup of all the stuff that basically they can't mess up when they pick it, right?
Produce.
And then I wait for the pickup and then James runs in and he goes and gets all our produce because it's, right there in the front of the store. So it's kind of a hybrid, which saves us a lot of time and it saves us a lot of money because we don't do all the,
we need that too.
Yeah, let's grab a bag of whatever.
Or God forbid you take your kids into the grocery store and every single aisle, they're like, can I have this? Can I have this? And sometimes
this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And our daughter too. She's still at the age where just anything new, right? And I'll be like, Ellie, why are you asking for that? She's like, I just want something. I'm like, no, you cannot just have something. You can have some of these eggs when you get home.
Yeah.
They were $6.
Oh, we'll make a sweet pancake.
Yes.
Oh gosh. I have a couple more questions on challenges and solutions. That kind of pertain to all this, but shipping is one thing that I'm kind of curious with in general, because mail is not as easy. You had your Reno house. I don't know if you still have a PO box there or whatever. But how do you Amazon packages? I'm sure you still order stuff off Amazon for crafts and stuff like that. You mentioned that earlier.
Oh yeah.
How does that work? Because it's not everybody says, okay, yeah, you can ship here. So that's what I'm curious about.
Most places we stay are fine with it. We don't have a membership. We don't do Thousand Trails or any of those. And lots of people do it and it works great for them. We just kind of looked at the places we wanted to stay and how we like to travel. And we want to be able to stay as long as we want to stay or as short as we want to stay. So, because I know that that's one of the places where it's tougher to get packages or you have to pay extra, I think. Most places that we've stayed, unless it's a state park, have allowed for us to get Amazon packages, or there's so many of the Amazon lockers now. I know when we were outside of New York City, it wasn't even an Amazon locker. It was a little tiny, I don't even know what you would call it, a bodega store. Is that what they call them there? I don't know. And I just walked in and was like, hi, I'm here for my package. And the guy was like, oh, okay. And, just gave me our package. That was their Amazon locker there. So that's what we mostly do. Yeah,
I would say 99% of the places we stay allow Amazon packages. And so there's a lot of the stuff that we get on a recurring basis that we just get off of Amazon. That makes it a whole lot easier. Especially with stuff like honey and all your condiments, and we can really shop for organic stuff on Amazon and then they come right to us. With our mail back home, where we did sell our house, we completely sold and we haven't had any residential anything But this last summer, we bought a new piece of property. It's one of our adventures we're kind of
nothing on it,
nothing into or going into, but it did have a mailbox. And so for right now, what we were going to do is we talked to the local post office, and they'll gather all your mail, and then they'll hold it, and then they'll send it to you for a fee. And that's what we were going to do. And we actually were really close to doing that. But then her mom one night's like, why?
It's in the same town my mom lives.
Yeah, her mom lives there. So we're just like, well, if you're okay driving over and picking it up, just
but a majority of our stuff is electronic. So that's one of the things, like before going full time, like I know there are certain pieces of mail that you have to get, like they mail you your debit card, right? And so you actually have to get that physical piece of mail. But for most other stuff, we have everything electronic anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we got probably like everybody else in the United States, more mail than ever in October, but it was all garbage election mail. So we didn't want any of it anyway.
Yeah. Just propaganda and all that stuff.
Yeah. So
our kids were like, this postcard's so big. I was like, throw it in the trash, please.
Yeah. That's a fire starter.
Yeah, we did do that with a lot of it.
Yeah, you got to use your resources, right? So, well, cool. So I was wondering about that because, it's just a little different idea. I know people have like P.O. boxes in certain states, and they could stop in every once in a while, or they have friends like, hey, we're going to ship this. We're going to be in town in the next month or so.
Yeah.
I've heard that as well.
Services that you can get where you can do like a virtual mailbox and have stuff shipped to you and then pay, that are like private. I forget, iPostal.
We did iPostal for a little bit, but then there was like fees, or there was certain companies of ours that we needed stuff and they wouldn't send it to a post.
It was too big,
box or so. We paid for the subscription to iPostal for a little while, but then we got rid of it because it just wasn't feasible. And the longer you're out here on the road, the less and less mail you really do start to get. And so it just made more sense to have her mom pick it up for us and ship it to us if it's important.
Looks like you figured out the right system. So that's cool for you guys. Question now. We talked about homeschooling a little bit, but let's kind of dive into homeschooling a little more. How do you handle homeschooling, for one? It sounds like you got a little schedule going on. Do you catch hate for it by chance? Because I've seen that kind of go around the RV universe or the RV community. Do you feel that your kids are getting a better or thriving? Are they thriving in this environment more so than they would in like a public school? And then also sports wise, I'm an athlete. I played college ball as well. Yeah. And I wouldn't be me without sports. Right. But how do you handle that? Yeah. Because that was it's a big part of who I am. So like, what does that look like?
And us too. We were both big into athletics growing up, and we told our kids, and that was one of the things this summer. But when we first started, we told Wesley, because he was older at the time when we first started, we were like, hey, if there's anything you want to try, any sport you want to try, baseball, because he was into baseball, he was into football, you just let us know and we'll figure out a spot. And we had found there's places across the country. I remember one in Texas.
I think South Texas,
It starts with an M, the beach, Magnolia Beach. They have an area down there where like, and it's places like this all over the country, but instead of being like a full-on season, it was like a condensed where you go every day, 5 days a week for 3 weeks, and you get a bunch of games in and you learn everything instead of it being spread out over, 3 months or 2 months. But this year, Wesley and Ellie both, they really wanted to try soccer. So one of the big things we did is we looked up back home when is soccer season, and we made sure we were back home and we enrolled them into soccer, and they did a whole entire season of soccer, and they absolutely loved it. So
it was fun.
Well, and then we did jiu-jitsu. So we wanted to really get into self-defense into a sport. And so we picked jiu-jitsu and soccer, and they got to try, and they loved it. So now next time, like soccer, he's like, hey, I want to do soccer again next year. So we'll find another spot.
Figuring out where we'll be.
We'll figure out where we'll be, and we'll definitely get him enrolled into soccer.
Do you want to come say hi? Okay.
No, she just.
So I think with homeschool, I think the interesting thing is if we ever get hate from somebody, it's somebody online, right? Who doesn't know us, hasn't met us, doesn't know our kids. In people who we've met in person, like 99.9% of people are like, oh my gosh, you're giving your kids the best experiences. Wow, they're so well behaved. They speak to adults so well. They're so confident. Like, they make friends really quickly with other kids. And because I have that mom guilt that I get sometimes where he's like, why are you worrying about this? I'm like, well, I don't know. Cause I'm a woman and we just worry about things that we don't need to worry about. That's just what we do. And so, but I think like
I got that on recording. So
it's going to be a meme now.
I'm dropping that one. That was great.
Just make that like a new trending audio. It's fine. And I sometimes will look and be like, oh my gosh, is our daughter learning this fast enough? Or are we doing this enough? And then I think like, well, wait, fast enough for who? Like, are our kids learning these things fast enough for what? Like, are they able to do the things that we do? Are they progressing in their studies? Are they, on track generally with their peers? Because like, what does that really mean? We met, when we very first started, we stayed with our friends' parents owned this beautiful, rehabilitation ranch for kids in the area in Northern California. And one of their trainers who helped to train the kids to learn how to ride horses, she did a lesson with our kids and she mentioned that she was homeschooled. And I was like, oh, really? And she goes, yeah, I know. People think like, oh, you were homeschooled. You must be weird. And she's like, but what do you really need to know, to be successful in life? And I had this like epiphany of like, yeah, it's not like I meet people or I go apply for a job or I'm doing something and people are like, have you read Of Mice and Men? Oh, you haven't? Okay, well, you're not going to be able to do this thing. Like you learn such different things, right? Or we have friends who are from the South and their social studies focuses on, the Civil War and slavery way more than in Nevada, where we're focusing on like the Oregon Trail and the gold rush. Yeah. And so we're like, if you're teaching your kids the concepts of like why we're learning history, the lessons we learn from things, they can read, they can do math, they can, talk to people. Like our daughter will walk up at restaurants and grocery stores. The other day I was looking for something and she's like, Mommy, go ask them. I was like, no, it's fine. And I'm kind of looking. And then she's like, oh. And she walks over to the employee and she's like, excuse me, can you tell us where the spatulas are? And I was like, thank you, 7-year-old daughter. Yes. So yeah, but we do get hate from people online. I've had people straight up comment and say that I am a terrible person and terrible mother. And I don't care if I'm hurting your feelings. What you're doing to these kids is awful. And I'm just like, oh, well, block. That's cool. Yeah. I can just do that. Because I know, and that's the thing is like people all have their own opinions. And like you're saying, sports made you who you are. People have all these things who make them who they are. And so I always try to look at it like, wow, this person's really angry at me, a total stranger, for how I'm raising my like healthy, happy kids. They have something else that's going on that's making them that mad. It's not me.
Yeah.
We also do a lot of financial stuff with our kids that I never got. And that's not even taught in school anymore. Or if it ever was, I don't know. But we do a lot of financial stuff with our kiddos. Wesley's a big entrepreneur. There's a lot of places where he goes and he collects garbage. Like at one of the last RV parks we're at, he made like $250 he made. With his bike. And he's got business cards. He goes around and he introduces himself. And I told him.
I got an opportunity for him.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I'll make that kid a salesman.
Well, I told him like, hey, this is going to be you. So I'm going to help you with your first few clients, like shaking hands and introducing yourself. And I'll critique you as you go. But I'm going to stay behind you. I'm going to stay behind you like almost 100 feet. I'm really security conscious. So I'm like, I want you where I could see you.
Gotta be visible.
But you know what?
It's like
right.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
That's what they get. They get the whistle.
They get the whistle. Yeah. So anyways, he's doing a lot of that. He's big into making money. They do craft fairs and they actually, she's got him setting up budgets and everything. Yeah. Like they go out, they go on Amazon, they figure out what they want to put together or buy. Or we've been in places where we go, like in Arkansas, we went in and we got it was Louisiana. We got a bunch of walking sticks and he carved them all down, sanded them up, put linseed oil all over them, carved little things and handles in them. And then he sells them. But they have a craft sale coming up here in a couple of days, and she got on with Amazon with them, like, okay, what are your interests? What do you want to sell? And like actually these little
these
crystal necklaces, we got those in today. So anyways, they're going to be, so they got necklaces, they're making bracelets, and Wesley does like keychains. He uses a drill and he does a bunch of keychain stuff. But before that, They have to write down every single item.
Yeah,
they have to write down what it costs them, what they're going to charge, and what they're going to make by the time they're done with the show, or where they got to break even, and then profits. And so they don't get that stuff in school. You know, like you got to take like a separate type of class to get your finances. Where like, I remember in home ec, they stopped back in 2000, actually 99. They stopped doing checkbooks in the 1900s, as Wesley says. Back in the 1900s, Daddy. Like, yeah, I was in the 1900s.
I heard
so was I.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we were in the clubhouse at the place we're staying, and they were playing Monopoly. Our son loves Monopoly, and he beats me every time. But they were playing Monopoly, and they said something about credit, and one of the kids is like, "What's credit?" And I just kind of overheard our son start explaining to this kid what credit was, and I was like, "Yeah, he's right. That's how credit works." And he's like, "Yeah, but it doesn't even make sense how you get it." And we were like, "Also true."
Yeah. This kid knows a lot at a young age.
So yeah. So I think that every parent questions, right? Like what you're doing and how you're doing it and how well your kids are doing. And I think the biggest thing for us is our kids get to experience a lot of things. They're very grown up in the way that they talk. They're around adults a lot, but they're around kids a lot too. But they don't deal with like the bullying situations. They don't deal with just stuff that happens, right? And it's so like I have tons of friends who are teachers that it's not their fault. You have 25 little people that you're in charge of, and you can't be watching all of them all the time. And so we talk about that stuff with them, but it's nice that we get to be, you know, a little bit of that filter that stuff goes through, so we can actually explain. Like the election was a great opportunity for us to talk about, like, you know, they still see election stuff come up and they'd be like, what's this? Yes on this, no on this. And so we would read through stuff, we would talk about it. And it wasn't like, you know, some other kid at school, like, oh yeah, my dad says that guy's the worst. And then that's what they, you know, forms their opinions. We get to actually help them to think about, why do you have this opinion? And we've told them that, like, if they want to say they don't like something or like someone, we're like, well, why? You can't just come out and be like, that person's the worst. Like, why? What have you looked at? So I don't know, analytical thinking. We're trying to really get them to problem solve.
Yep, all on their own.
Yeah, from what I've seen from like talking to y'all that do this full timing thing, everyone seems to have the same opinion. Like this is, and I agree with you guys. You're going to get, these kids are going to come out far and beyond in a different manner, more cultured, more life skills. Because when you just like, hot take for me, schooling is just creating the 8 to 5 worker. That's all it's doing. Yeah. And I hate that. And I'm doing it. But I'm using this for another vehicle. You know, it's like, there's a lot of things to go on, but like you guys, they're going to come out so much more well-versed than an 18-year-old coming out of high school. Like, I mean, there's a lot of things. There's pros and cons to both. I'm sure, you know, you guys, you know, same with like athletics. Like you're not going to be a part of a team like you were. You're a part of your family team. And you guys are taking on the road together. It's a totally different animal. But I think that these kids are going to come out so much more ahead in a lot of different ways than probably the normal kid that goes to school. But
it's just so different.
Yeah, it really is. But you talked about financial aspects, and this kid, and we're going to come back to that. We're going to talk about it later. I'm going to make that kid a lot of money. But anyway.
Well, he's ready. He's ready.
But yeah, so financial aspects, you know, how do you really sustain this lifestyle? Because you did mention some budgeting, but financially, this is like people think, oh, it's going to be so much cheaper. Well, it can be if you boondock or dry camp all the time. But like, you know, $15 a night in Nevada versus $150 a night in Florida during peak season. There's totally different animals. So how do you sustain this lifestyle financially? What do you guys do? You content create and you do a couple other things, but are there any specific tips you can offer to earning an income on the road? And what other budgeting advice would you give to somebody considering the full-time life?
I think like one thing is when you look at your budget, like you were saying, don't think it's going to be way cheaper, and think about all the expenses that aren't going to go away, right? Like you're still probably going to pay for a cell phone. You're still probably going to pay for internet. You're still going to have health insurance. You're still like, there's expenses that are the same regardless of whether or not you're in a home or you're in an RV. Then there's some things that, you know, kind of get wrapped up. Like when you're paying for nightly or weekly stays, you're not paying a separate power bill or a separate water bill, or, so some of that stuff kind of evens out a little bit. But then the maintenance and repairs, which that can be very similar to when you're in a home. I mean, like when we lived in our house and we had to get a new pellet stove, that was a few $1,000s. And so, in your RV, you have stuff that you have to repair. So having those same buckets that you would have as you do in a home, I think people think like, oh, I'm moving into an RV, I don't have to worry about like home maintenance. And like you still do. So you still need to have all of that, set out. I think we were really lucky at the time that we started that selling our house that we had gave us a cushion of some money. And so we were able to be debt free. That was probably the biggest thing for us, is we didn't have a truck payment, a trailer payment, because those things are expensive. I mean, when you look at having to pay those off and people are like, oh, our truck payment is $700 a month. Like that's what you pay for a monthly stay sometimes. So trying to minimize those as much as possible. And honestly, I think if you can like figure it out, not buying stuff new, we're not big new people. I mean, if something comes up and it is a really good deal and, you can make it work, but buying something that's 1 year older or buying something, where you can save a lot of money and then you don't have as big a payments. So what we clearly pivoted a lot. I did fundraising for a hospital. James was, a firefighter, worked with the military. But after we started some of our social media stuff, I realized like, oh, I did fundraising. I sold event sponsorships. It's basically the same thing. And so we worked our butts off for a while. I mean, I think the first probably 3 months when we were like, we're going to like really get into this, I was sending out probably 20 to 30 emails a day pitching different companies. Like we went around and we looked at like what stuff that we use, why would they want to work with us? What can we offer? And we took, product, if it was something we could use, started building up our portfolio. With social media, we researched what we thought would be the best fit, like for our audience. And we focused really on Instagram a lot. And we were putting up, for 6 months, we were putting up 3 reels a day, 7 days a week. It was exhausting.
Wouldn't recommend
but that was our job right then. And we, had to see what stuck, what did well. And then, I'm very persistent, I think is the right word for it. And so, and we've had people who have asked us like, well, how do you guys do this? And I mean, some of it, there is luck that comes in, right? I mean, in anything, there's the person who sees you on the sidewalk, the whatever it is that this video happens to get a bunch of traction on it. But I think the biggest thing is people will ask like, well, how do you work with all these companies, or what do you do? And like, I don't stop until like, if a company says like, no, we don't want to work with you. Okay, cool. Then my response is I'll check back in with you in 3 months, because you're going to want to work with us. But, or if I don't hear back from somebody, I follow up until I hear back, because I figure worst case scenario, you eventually tell me no, or worst case scenario that happens a lot is the 4th or 5th time that I reach out to somebody, they go, oh my gosh, I've been meaning to get back to you. And then we book a deal with somebody where we have a big part of our income that comes in. So
some of our biggest clients
started that way.
were people that didn't respond to us for months. And then all of a sudden it was like, holy cow, you guys, I'm sorry. Thank you. And every one of them is always like, thank you for being so persistent, but we've landed some really big names that we never thought we would work with. And it's because of persistence. Like, until a company legitimately says no, like sends you a message, says something, hey, we're not interested in working with you guys, then it's still fair game. Like they all these big companies that we're trying to reach out to now, they're working with hundreds, if not thousands of different peoples and marketers. And so when they see our name pop up, it gets flushed out by a whole bunch of emails. But then pretty soon when you see that name over and over and over and over, they eventually click on it and give us a response.
And I think that like my background in fundraising was a lot of that, because, I would be like, oh, I'm calling these people to see if they want to give the hospital $500,000.
Right.
I'm probably not at the top of their list, And so I was used to that, like follow up. And I'd had success there doing some of that stuff. And so it was just like, this is how we're going to run our business too. And, and then clearly once you get the deal, that's a quarter of the work, because then you have to actually produce the work. And then the other part of it is we're just always super honest. Like if something comes up, then we're like, hey guys, sorry, we can't do this video. It has to get pushed back. And we're ourselves. Like we don't, I think it's funny. Sometimes we'll get on meetings with brands. We do lots of like video meetings and introductions, and like, we don't get super dressed up. We aren't like, because we're like, no, they're hiring us because of who we are and what we do. And we don't want to have that like weird image that comes up like, oh, well, when we first talked to you guys, he was in a suit, which actually I don't think I've seen you wear a suit for 10 years.
This is my uniform right here.
This is his uniform.
I wrote the uniform dress and appearance
for
our fire department. So I went for 18 years completely shaven, wearing my shirt every day. Like, no, like
pins in the right direction.
Yeah, everything. Yeah. And so now it's like, this is who you're getting. If you like what you're seeing right now, you're going to love working with us. I promise you that. And,
like Birkenstocks and running shoes.
I don't
my type of people.
I've never found a pair that fit.
Yeah, we'll get you some Birkenstocks.
But yeah, so that's kind of how we do it.
So that's I mean, our income now is the social media and working with brands and providing content, and that's what we do. And it doesn't stop. That's the thing too, is I think people think you're going to get to a certain level and then you're just good. Like we have a lot of brands that we work with consistently, but it doesn't mean that I'm not still in the background, like reaching out and doing other stuff and starting other relationships, because like, you never know. And it's the same thing in a regular job. Like you never know. I got laid off from the hospital. If we didn't already have a plan in place, I would have just been without a job and had, I think they paid me 2 weeks.
Another thing that really helps us with, what helps us is when we first started this back in 2021, or it was 2022, I'm sorry, when we said, hey, we're going to try social media, we went out into the world, the YouTube world, figured out like a couple courses. We took a couple courses that lined us up and kind of gave us a basic strategy, but that was in 2022. And
stuff changes.
So we literally just got done taking another course a week ago, and we're getting ready to sign up for another one on December 1st, because if you're in the social media world at all, like, after doing it for 6 months, that what happened 6 months ago does not work today. Maybe a little bit of it, but there's new strategies, there's new algorithms, there's new matrices, there's new data, whatever it is. So you constantly, this is one of those super dynamic professions. But if you really do want to be successful at it, you really have to be committed to continually taking new courses, and not just from the same one person. Like we take courses, some of the courses we take are free, some of them are $2,000, but we're constantly learning. And over the time, we've kind of built up our own little matrix and figured out like, hey, this is what really works. Because when we first started, like we said, we were doing 3 posts a day for 6 months straight. It burned us out. And so now we're down to less than 15 posts a month. And even to some of the people that are out there, we know people that post like 4 times a month and they're very successful.
Yeah,
so
you have to do what you can sustain.
Yeah.
And I think, you have to treat it like a business if you want it to be a business. And you have to also critique yourselves. I think that was one of the hardest things. Like the first time, like where we watched something very objectively that, I had edited something or he had done something, and we'll still get, sometimes a little bit irritated with each other, but where it's like, we have to do that over. Like those photos did not turn out good. The lighting wasn't right. We have to redo the whole photo shoot. And so, I had a friend yesterday, she was like, man, I saw some of the pictures you guys did for a brand, and like, they just look so good. You have such a good eye. And I was like, well, thank you. I really appreciate that. But also they get 10 photos. I sent them 50 that were edited. I edited 100. We took 400. So it's not like we just go, oh, let's go take 10 photos for a brand and make a bunch of money. Like it can be a 4-hour photo shoot where then that's how you get the product. So I think that the idea that it's easy money is, throw that out the window.
hard work, persistence. You got to do it. You take the courses. You can write those off as education for your business. Yep. I mean, there's a lot of ways. A lot of people don't know all that stuff. Like you make a business, you make an LLC, whatever, sole proprietorship. You can do whatever you want. Write it off. You can do all of it. You write everything. Write your damn travels off because you can do that too. I went all over the country with my wrapped vehicle, advertising. See you right on the trip. Don't find me. You can't find me. Tax avoidance, not evasion.
That's it. So, that's it.
That's right.
There's a lot of ways to do it. And brand deals, persistence. I mean, you guys reached out to, Bishes, and that's how we got connected. So like you reached out, we're trying to always work with somebody. I'm always trying to reach out to new people to talk to them. Businesses specifically are the harder ones, just because, they, like you said, a lot of people are talking to them, but talking to you guys, spreading the word, all that stuff, it all helps. So everything that you do, just keep moving forward and be persistent with all that. But all that being said, you've been in it for 3.5 years, right? Have you found a sense of community within the RV community? What are rallies like? Do you go to rallies? Do you do the FMCA stuff or whatever they're called? 1,000 Trails, you said you don't do.
We don't.
But what does that all look like for you?
So we've done a couple of rallies. We've more just met people along the road and like made plans and met up and kind of stayed in touch. We're very friendly people and we love being around people, but like sometimes it's too much. And maybe that's also because of like, I know for me doing fundraising, I always having to go to events and be on. And then it was like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted from that, even though like I like it. And so we kind of have like our little, right, exactly. Yeah. We have our little family unit, and then we'll find certain people that we're like, hey, we're going to be here, let's meet up. We have actually some friends that we met. Oh my gosh, it's been since 2022. We haven't even seen them, and they're coming to stay at the same place as us for a month. Which, when stuff just aligns like that, and then we're like, cool, you guys are cool, our kids are good, and just meeting new people like that. And then we also get to see a lot of people that we wouldn't get to. So like James served active duty, and I think 3 of your good friends in the military who I never would have met. They, we lived in Nevada. They were in South Carolina, Charleston, Ohio, and Tennessee.
Yep.
And 3 places that like, I mean, all beautiful places, but like we never would have planned a vacation to any of those places. And if we had, it would have been like, oh, maybe we could grab lunch with your friend one day. Traveling, we were like, hey, we're going to be over there. Let's go stay in that town for a week, like a bunch of time with these people. And actually where I was like, man, no wonder you were friends with these guys. Yeah. They're rad, and their wives are rad, and their kids are rad. So
one of the things I think that worked really well with the community aspect is I thought everybody, for whatever reason, when I came into this world, I thought we were all going to be the same. We are not the same type of people, but there's a lot of people where I'm happy them again. But what I do like is when you do find people you really do like, it is kind of easier to say, hey, let's meet up somewhere. But one of the things we've done after going, because I think there's a stigma that like, oh, hey, we're going to meet up, and you got to spend every single minute like, oh, what are they doing? We got to go on our door, or we got to call them. Like, are we hanging out to the point where we're like, hey, look, we're going to be 2 weeks or convoy and do some different places. This is our lives. Like, we don't need to have a fire every single night, but we want to get together because we enjoy each other, right? So I think that takes a lot of stress off the plate when you're backed in next to each other with 4 or 5 other people here. You're not worried about like, hey, are we supposed to? Yeah, we don't do dinner every night. We do a fire once a week maybe, but what it does do is like you could shoot out a text in the morning or whatever and be like, hey, dude, we're going to the pool if anybody wants to come, right? Or like, hey, on Friday, you guys all want to do a dinner, and then we get together and we get to enjoy each other. We get to have that community, but we also get to live our lives and not feel like we need to be constantly making each other happy, which takes a lot of stress off the table.
Yeah. Just like setting those boundaries of like, hey, this is when we work, this is when we do school, and it's still flexible that if you're like, hey, we ended up getting done early, right? If you guys want to go do that hike, we're totally good to do it. But and we've kind of, I don't know if like struggled with it, but like since we run our own schedule, right? We have our business and we get to work kind of not always when we want to work, but we can move stuff around. And so like when we've been back home and around family where, you know, if it's like, oh, your sister's at work, like she's at work, right? And she's in the office. And so nobody bothers her all day long. But I'm at work and it's like, oh, well, you know, my mom will call and I love talking to her, but I'm like, Mom, I'm working right now. And she's like, oh, sorry, I didn't know you were working. I'm like, well, I work every day. Like, I know my schedule is a little more fluid. But then sometimes there are times when I'll call her in the middle of the day because she's retired and I'm not working. I'm baking banana bread or doing something. And so I think like for us, helping to like kind of set those boundaries, which is on us to make sure that we do it, that we can protect that time that we need. Or when it doesn't look like we're working. Like, I think one of the hardest things is when we're at RV parks and we do like talking to people and helping people, but like, it will not fail that if we are outside trying to actually do a project and film it, that some old man will walk up as James
what
is
are you
on
doing?
Hey, I one time had a and I'm like, oh, that's great. And I'm like clearly filming, like, hold on, babe, the lighting here is not good. And like, they do not pick up on that. Like, you cannot drop to snowbirds that you're busy. They're like, well, what are you doing? Like, walk into your picture. And you're like, this is our job. So you just take pictures of your husband and sell them? I'm like, well, that makes it sound weird.
Yes, that's what we're
Someone
doing.
Does that. Someone does that.
No, you can't buy a picture of my husband, ma'am.
But one of the funnest things about this is the people that you do meet and actually do click with.
Yeah.
We've had some really good friends that we've convoyed with that we're making plans to go back and see. One of my favorite trips is when we did Southern Arizona, Utah with our friends Hugh and Courtney. Interstate Ingrams. Like, I had so much fun. And what's nice about it is like our families still have plans. So you meet. We were together for like a month and a half, just bouncing around the country. And then we went completely separate ways. And we're now trying to make plans with our friends, Joey and Andy, the nuclear nomads that are back on the East Coast. And
and both of those people we met because of social media. It was literally, I think both those situations were they called or messaged me because they were looking for a site somewhere. And then we were like, yeah, come, this is the place we're at. You should come stay here. And one of them was in Texas and one of them was in Florida. And, you know, so it is really cool. You kind of get a glimpse into people. And I think we're pretty much ourselves on our social. So like James was saying, what you see is what you get. So if people are like, oh, we think we'd like them, like that's how we are in person. And we've heard that from people like, wow, you're just like you are on your channel. And we're like, why would we not be? That's what it
can only be one. There can only be one me. It's a lot harder to play.
That's it.
Right? Yeah. I'm pretty good at it.
Unless you have a complex or whatever they call that. You know.
So I think, I mean, we have found a lot of community, but we're less of like doing like the big rally stuff. I mean, it's fun to go to like the big RV shows, or it's fun to do stuff like that once in a while, but you also have to be like, we're not working this week, or we're not, you know, because there's so much stuff, or there's so much obligation. And like one of my least favorite feelings is feeling obligated to do stuff that I don't want to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Hello, listener. I would like to take a second to thank you for listening, and we appreciate all the love and support that you've given us as we've grown the RV Voice. If you have not yet, please hit that follow or subscribe button, and please tell your friends about us. Also, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear any feedback or suggestions that you may have. Now, back to the show. Yeah, well, I was curious because there's a lot of RV rallies, and it seems like everybody seems to go to them. Sorry, it looks like we're cutting out here, lagging a little bit, but it should be all right. Usually it comes out all right on the backside. But it seems like there's a lot of RV rallies across the U.S. at all times. Basically,
There are.
Yeah.
all 12 months of the year, there's something going on. And I just kind of curious what everybody does. And it sounds like you guys, it's not your type, and I completely understand that. My social battery, literally last week, I went to Run Club, and I was drinking a beer outside with everybody around the fire. And I was like, I gotta go. Like, I'm tired of talking to people. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't even know why, but I'm like, I don't want to be here. So I just like exit stage left, you know, I'm out of here.
You know, we've taught our kids that too. where we're like, if you aren't having fun and you're like doing something, like you just leave or just tell us like, I'm ready to go. We're not going to be like, no, you have to stay and you're playing. It's not, I don't want to play Monopoly anymore. If you're being a sore loser, okay, you might need to finish, but
there you go. Yeah. But yeah, I was kind of curious about that, but anyway, advice for beginners. Okay, so I'm gonna ask this question in an advice to yourself 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. If you were restarting all this, what are like 3 things that you would tell yourself, right? Or whatever, 1 to 3 things. And then are there any common misconception about RV living that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think advice number 1 that you kind of mentioned is like slow down. Don't try to play, and nobody will do it. You can tell everybody that everybody is still going to go as fast as they're going to go because you're excited. You want to get to whatever spot you feel like you're in it, but like slow down both your speed that you're driving and slow down on your travels and like try to enjoy the places that you're at, because it really is like the journey, right? Like every place we go. And it kind of helps you check out of that, like always waiting for the next thing. If you can slow down a little bit and be like, hey, this is cool. We like being right where we're at. So I think that's a big one. I think the budgeting is another one, like to make sure that you're paying attention to budget. Yeah. What else? Don't stress so much. Stuff's going to break. And I think that when we first started, anything that went wrong, I immediately felt like it was like the worst thing ever. And now I'm like, that's fixable. We can get it. We'll figure it out. There's like, now I think like, okay, worst case scenario, I don't know. I guess maybe we do have to get a hotel for a little while and we have to figure it out, which thankfully, knock on wood, we have not had to do. Also, I'd say get full-time RV insurance. That's something we didn't have it for a year. I didn't know. I talked to our insurance guy and I don't think he understood what I was telling him. And he was like, yeah, you should be fine. And then we ended up after a year getting full-time RV insurance, which didn't really cost much more.
Yeah. I was going to say, don't use Google Maps as your route planner.
Oh, it still
I can't tell you how many people, a couple of people we absolutely know, but then a lot of the people that follow us have sent us messages of like, oh, man, there was one that just sketched me out so bad. But because if you use Google Maps, you don't type in your height, right, of your rig. So Google Maps just figures you're a car and you could get under any overpass. But most rigs
like the tail of the dragon in Kentucky that our friends went down and lost their back bumper because they were pulling a 40-foot. And the sign, like when you're driving and you think like, oh, there will be a sign that will tell me that I can't fit there. Some of our best friends from back home live in Mississippi now. And there is a underpass that's 12.5 feet tall or 12 feet tall. Yep, 12 so not even travel trailers probably could get under it. And the sign that tells you it's 12 feet tall is 10 feet before the overpass, where you then have to back up like 4 miles.
Or you don't know. And we've seen pictures of people sending us with their air conditioners completely ripped off.
In Indiana, we had that guy pulling next to us with a ripped off air conditioner.
So don't use Google Maps. Use an actual RV.
Yeah.
What's one we
use? RV Life or use Trucker Path. Yeah, or whatever you can find that's similar, but make sure that you get something. When we first started in California, I had probably what was the closest to a panic attack that I've ever had. We were like, I think maybe a month on the road and we were going to boondock or mooch dock with one of the guys that used to be on his fire crew in Northern California. And somehow I put the address into Google Maps because that's what we were first using. And their addresses there are like 3 numbers and a dash and then 3 numbers. And I still say I didn't put it in wrong. Google auto-corrected. Anyway, something happened with it. And we went past the house and the road past the house went up to this lake. And it's like an 11% incline up this super steep.
Yeah.
And James turned to me and he was like, his house was supposed to be on the right. And I'm like, no, it's on the left. He's like, no, I know for sure his house is on the right. I haven't been here before, but he told me it's on the right. And then I looked at it and I was like, it's back there. And he goes, we can't turn around. And we had to go 3/4 of the way up the mountain and finally found a spot where we could turn around.
There was like a dozer pull out.
And I remember like my voice got so high because I was so stressed out that I could barely talk. And I remember thinking, I kept telling him, well, why don't you just stop and let me get out and I'll go ask somebody, because there were other homes. But he's like, stop at one of these homes that says no trespassing for you to go see if maybe. And he's like, also, I can't stop. If I stop here, we're not going to go again. We're so steep. And I, in my mind, was like, well, this is it. I've killed our family. We're going to have to decide which kid to eat first. Like,
that's where your mind went? Jeez.
What you see is what you get, Jake.
I'm flipping that one too.
I would also recommend to people starting out, don't buy a membership to anything until you've been on the road for a little bit.
Yeah, give yourself some time.
Give yourself some time to really look into some of these memberships that people are out there selling, because, for instance, one of the big ones, we started in Reno, Nevada. So 1,000 Trails wasn't even a thing in Nevada. So we knew right away, like, hey, we're not going to use this thing. But
our first three states were like,
our first 3 states didn't have any 1,000 Trails. But then as you get into it, like, I'm super happy we didn't spend the crazy amounts of money that some of these people are spending on these memberships. Even though, like, for instance, I will say, if you want to be a full-time nomad and bounce around 3 weeks, 2 weeks at a time in Florida,
it totally makes sense.
Then maybe one of those memberships will pay itself off down the road. But for full time, all the way across the country,
and you want to go where you want to go,
and you want to go where you want to go on your own terms and stay as short or as long as you want. Don't buy a membership until you're in this game a little bit, to where you've actually been able to talk to people and see how those memberships actually work, what you can and can't get at those places, how long you can stay. Yeah, if you spend $30,000 on a membership, you might have the best, but also don't really pay attention to people that say, I don't spend anything on my reservations a month. That's like saying I buy a $75,000 truck and I don't spend anything on driving. I still have my monthly dues and my yearly dues. But before I get on a tangent, like, just don't get yourself wrapped up into something that you might regret in 6 months.
Yeah.
Or you might get down the road and be like, hey, this really works. I want to do it.
Yeah.
That, and for personally, you already said it, both of you, the slowing down. If you know you're going to be doing this, like your goal is to do a couple of years, don't rush into it, because you'll get yourself burnt out. If you know you're only going to do it for a year and you got, like, say, a job lined up in a year, and you know you got a year, then maybe plan a route that, gets you to the main places you want to go. And actually schedule it out. But always remember, there's a nightly fee, there's a weekly fee, and there's a monthly fee. And those monthly fees in a lot of places, the reason why we still never did a membership in Florida is because we found a couple RV resorts that are absolutely amazing for $500 a month, utilities, electricity, everything included. And it, to me, beats a lot of the big RV resorts. We're really big into swimming in the spring, swimming with manatees and all that stuff that Florida has to offer. And where we stay, mostly in northern Florida, like, it's $500 a month for the whole entire month. And it's a beautiful site. It's a beautiful spot. So just know that those places are out there. You just got to do your research.
Yeah. I think, everything's figure outable. You can fix things. I think, make sure you're budgeting, slowing down. What else would I have said? Oh, I think, like, what you get for your setup, make sure, like we said, that it fits your family, and make sure that you can tow whatever you get and that you're comfortable doing it. Because I know there's a lot of, unless it's really small, but like some of the, this is super lightweight, you can tow it with anything. Like, okay, maybe, but can you stop it, and can you tow it safely, and where are you going to be? Where I think sometimes things are advertised for people who are maybe going to go an hour from their house twice a year on flat roads and tow a trailer, and you're totally fine. But if you're getting something where you want to be full-time, you want to be going up through the Tetons, or you're, look at the upgrades that you might want to make. Like, I know we have disc brakes that James installed from D-Max, and that made such a big difference for us. So you're not going to need everything. Like, we do a ton of stuff on our trailer, but that's because it's stuff that makes sense for us. So just because somebody else is doing it, like, look at it and see if it makes sense for you. And get a water filter. Everybody needs a water filter. I think that would be another one. We got really sick from bad water when we first started, because we have pretty good water where we're from. So make sure you have something that before that comes into your RV home, it gets filtered.
Interesting. That was a crap load of advice. So
we're full of it.
crap load of advice from Boundless Bronnekes.
There you go. Yeah.
Like bam, 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 bam. Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah. That was incredible, guys. That was. I take notes this whole time. I take notes. I ran out of page, so I'm on the back page.
You're playing hangman. Don't act like you're taking notes.
You're doodling.
That's what I do. I'm like, I'm tired of talking to these people. No, this is incredible stuff. I mean, usually people have like one or two things, but like the fact that you're oversharing, like I appreciate it so much because it's good information for people that want to do this, and that's like the more the merrier. So that was incredible. So thank you all. Thank you for that. That was a lot of information, and I'm going to use this stuff for when I decide to go full time. So at some point. But anyway, what are the future plans? Where are you going? How do you see this like evolving for yourselves? Do you see yourselves getting a new trailer?
We're making some changes.
Actually, in the next month
to our plans. We have like one more thing that has to become official, but so we were going to be spending most of our time this winter out west, and we weren't going to go back east at all, but we are going to be going back to Indiana the very beginning of next year to do some work out there. And we have some big changes coming up there that hopefully we can freely share about very soon. like in the next few days. Yeah,
next few days. We're working with a really big company, and they've asked us, they reached out to us and want us to do some work for them, not just content, like actually helping design some future models of fifth wheels. So yeah, we're actually going to be doing some big changes. Our goal this year was to go all the way up the Oregon coast into or California, Oregon, Washington, back across Idaho, back. But now we're going to bomb out the Elkhart.
We were mapping last night.
Yeah, we're mapping last night.
And I hear Indiana is terrible in February, so that should be lovely.
Sure is.
Yeah. So no, we do plan. We're going to continue doing the RV stuff for the considerable future. We have some plans. We're at 44 states right now. When we get back to Elkhart, the route that we're going to take is going to wrap up all of them except for North Dakota, which we will hit next year. But yeah, we're gonna be planning. We'll be out east probably at the end of the year and just spending some time out there again. We're kind of transitioning our social media stuff into, instead of just doing content and product reviews, and we're doing a little bit more taking over back end stuff, helping some companies realign their strategy. And so we're doing something a little bit different. We're leveling up. We're doing a little bit more UGC for companies instead of just constant videos, because over time people get kind of tired, I think, of just constantly seeing promotional stuff on your page. They want to see the life you're living, not so much who you're working for, even though a lot of the companies we do work for,
they align really well.
They align really well. But people want to see something different, and we like showing. Our goal when we very first started was showing people the real life, like here's RV life and destination. So we're gonna get a little bit back into that, and
we're gonna try and find a few more like favorite spots. I think like our long-term goal is like, we love the travel that we've done and all the places that we've been. But I think like we originally planned all our travels, like where do we want to go? And then we kind of found places along those routes, right? To hit off some of those like kind of bucket list places or places we wouldn't ever have gone to in our old normal life, right? And so now that we've been to a lot of places, like we loved going up the East Coast, super, super fun, but it's not really somewhere that we want to spend like a ton of time, right? And so figuring out what our favorite places are, where maybe we can have 4 to 6 places where we spend a little bit more time and have, kind of a, maybe not snowbird route exactly, but maybe something kind of like that. We'll just become migratory instead of nomadic, maybe.
Like the settlers.
There you go.
We're getting back to, I'm reading a book. I literally started it yesterday. It's about the Oregon Trail. And I'm like, man, this is so much like modern day nomads. I mean, obviously we don't have
much harder
oxen and a wagon, but we are
a luxurious travel.
Yeah,
it
is. But
the covered wagon.
It is.
We did stay in a covered wagon.
We did. So. That was fun.
That's loud.
But I do think that like we eventually want to get to the point to where we bought our first one. We want like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different spots that we could put like 3 or 4 sites maybe on it. So friends and people, travelers can go to them, but places that we really, really want to be.
Yeah.
And, there's places in Tennessee and Florida, and then the rest of them are pretty much in the West Coast, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Northern California,
South Dakota.
Nevada, South Dakota. Like there's so much to do. Utah, Southern Utah. We've explored a little bit of Arizona, but it was in the nice months. It was like October, we were in Sedona, which was absolutely gorgeous, but you don't want to be in Sedona in July, August, September timeframe. It's just too hot. So we're looking for those spots. And we did our first one this year. We got 2 full hookup sites on it. We were going to be going back to finish up a little bit, but,
Plans change.
You
got to go to Indiana.
So we're going back to Indiana.
There you go. Well, if you go through Nebraska, let me know. I'll maybe be able to hook you up with something.
You will.
Anyway, so that's a lot going on. I'm excited for you guys. Going to be more like almost like vlog style stuff of like actual lifestyle, and then you're going to be partnering up with some bigger, bigger companies. I don't see why not. Why wouldn't you? If you just like take the next step. I mean, for me, I'm always thinking like, what's next? Like, what am I doing now that can be the next thing? Like, what's next thing? I'm always looking probably way too far in the future. But if you're not, what are you doing? I'm not a stagnant person. So kudos to you guys for pushing and keep going, being persistent in that. But you said some favorite places, things that you've done, whatever, maybe even some like unexpected benefits. What are some of those things that you got from RV life? I mean, just RV living, and then places you've seen. All that.
Yeah, I think one of our very favorite places that James mentioned is like in northern Florida, swimming in the springs. Like we love swimming, we love paddleboarding, we love water. I'm like everybody else, probably obsessed with manatees and being able to be out there. So I think that has been, one of our favorite things and one of our favorite places to go. Where else? I think Texas on the beach was really cool. We love the mountains, like Idaho, South Dakota.
This is different. Like I saw a thing the other day that showed that 80% of all Americans live east of the Mississippi River, and the other 20% live obviously to the west, but 12% of it, 12% of that 20 lives on the coast, the West Coast. Mm-hmm. And then you have this section of land that's like Sierra Nevadas and all the mountain ranges all the way to South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, all the way down to Utah. That's where the other people live. And when you're out here and you actually get off this beaten path a little bit, like it's freedom. Like you mentioned hunting, like I feel so different when I'm up in the mountains and like there's nobody for miles, and you have this different connection with with the land and nature. And I'm super big into like history as far as like the frontiersmen and the Oregon Trail. And so one of my favorites is like when we went through Tennessee, Kentucky, and West Virginia. I had no idea I was going to love those places as much as I did.
About Daniel Boone, right?
And then I read a bunch on Daniel Boone, and so we traveled to places that he went, the Cumberland Gap and all of that. And now we're coming out west, and there's just something different about the land out here. People just don't understand. And actually, when we're talking to our friends like on the East Coast, it's more fearful, and that they don't like the open spaces. They don't like that you can go right down and get your gasoline and your groceries, where we're like, no, that's where we want to be. So, outside of South Dakota, that's probably one of the, or in South Dakota, Spearfish, Custer, that whole little Black Hills area. Wyoming, we're really going to explore this year a little bit more. We went to the Bighorn Mountains outside of Sheridan and absolutely fell in love with it. I really want to go to Cody, Wyoming. We did Idaho. I was born in Idaho, so we've done a lot of Idaho, but
further north.
And
we have so many people that have like offered for us to come stay with them,
yeah,
which is very like really cool, but not like social media people, like these people who live like up in like Coeur d'Alene, I think, and they were next to us for like 3 days, and they were like, here's our number, if you ever need a place to come stay with us. And so I think we might start taking some people up on some of these offers. Some guy in Colorado was like, I got a full hookup site, like
and that's another thing, like she was born in Colorado, and that's where her dad was from, and he was really big into climbing the 14,000 foot peaks in Colorado. And this year we actually got to do a little stint in southwestern Colorado in Dolores, and I could not believe how much I loved Colorado. Like, I did an elk hunt out there years ago, but I don't know, it was different this time, where we actually just dedicated our time to hiking trails. We were there at the perfect time. It was the beginning of June. So all the flowers were blooming in the mountains, and we hit trails that were so amazing, and there was not a single person on it. And these are all over the place. So
what's your favorite thing that you always say? We'll be out somewhere in the mountains, and James goes, people have no idea. People have no idea.
She's starting to write these old man quotes that I say. Like, I guess I'm getting older to where I say stuff like that.
Damn near. You say damn near a lot.
Whatever.
Damn near.
Fucking old man. That's where I'm at.
I love you.
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm glad somebody loves you.
Okay.
I've earned my pot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of cool places out there. Colorado's one of my favorites. If I had to choose one place to live, I'd probably choose Colorado, Salida, Buena Vista area, maybe even Leadville, just because. But that Sol area, I mean, Crested Butte's fantastic. I could probably live down in,
My grandpa was born in Crested Butte.
Oh my goodness, what a lucky fella! It's beautiful down there.
Beautiful land.
I remember him telling me we used to ski to school.
Really? Uphill both ways.
Absolutely.
It's a snowstorm. Yeah, I heard it all. Yeah. Awesome. Well, what about some gadgets and gizmos? It sounds like you guys are pretty handy. You kind of redid most of your anything, well, most of your stuff. I'm actually going to pull this up here right now. So you got your store. You got, obviously you push out a lot of different things. What would be, like you said, water filter was one. That's a huge thing. What are some other like heavy hitters, gadgets or gizmos that you're like,
absolutely water filter. So going from like easy stuff that I think everybody should have to like stuff that, you maybe want to think more about. Like, I think the water filter is definitely, and there's several right now. We have a Clear Source. It was like the only one that was on the market when we started, and it's been great. I know there's a few others now that are, real similar. Some of them are smaller. So look at those, but a triple stage, get one of those. And
a water softener. We have a water softener also that's tied into that.
That's been really good for out west. I think like a keyless lock. So we had an RV lock like our first week on the road, I think. And just not having to worry about keys. I mean, RVs are keyed, very similar, lots of them. And we're not stressing about, hey, where's this key? Where's this? So we have those on our front door and on our like storage bay locks. So it's not like when we pull up and like we're getting stuff out. Do you have the keys? Is it locked? Do we, So those are two big ones that I think,
I'm big into barbecuing and always have been. We don't have, our rig isn't set up with an outdoor kitchen. So we have on the back of our bumper on the back, it's called Hitch Fire, but it's a barbecue that mounts to our hitch.
The big swing arm.
With a big swing arm, and we use it regularly, almost every day.
And they sell a little cute 1 gallon propane tank.
Yep. Oh my goodness. And not pitches. I'm thinking, because we just work with so many different people, one of the most important things you can do with your rig is, one, keep it clean and keep it we use a company called Polyglow that keeps the gloss on the outside. I had no idea until we were on the road a while, the maintenance that exterior takes, right? We have a fiberglass finish and it's got aluminum on it. And I had no idea. It was just ignorance. I had no idea. I thought, you buy a trailer and it looks good. You just wash it like a truck. No, oxidation sets in pretty quick and you get that white coaty stuff. And so
it starts breaking down. And
we found a company by accident. Because we were doing a photo shoot. We had this company come out to help wash our rig one day before a photo shoot, and they used this product, Polyglow, and I ended up...
Oh, it works really good.
It worked really good, so I started working, doing some content with them, or reached out to them, and sure enough, like, I wish I had found it sooner, because it would have taken a lot of work off of keeping the exterior of our rig really nice. And now it looks clean. I'm going to get ready to do a video on the back, because I've been leaving the back of our rig not doing anything so you can see the oxidation. Then I'm going to take it all out. But anyways, making sure you're staying up on the exterior rig. So a product like what Polyglow has keeps the outside finish clean. Suspension, like not a lot of rigs come with suspension. And I cannot believe this. This is one thing that if I could change the whole entire manufacturing process, it would be that all rigs should have some kind of equalizer between their axles. It's like literally,
it's not just the
one we have is like Ultrek 4000 from Moride. It's literally $500 for the whole entire kit for a dual axle. But our rig has what's called, like, in between our axles, it's a rocker plate, and it's a solid piece of metal and it attaches to like
absorb
these
anything.
It's literally quarter-inch shackles. And you see a lot of people talking about, oh, we hit a pothole and we broke a shackle. Well, they broke a shackle because it's a quarter-inch thick, and but for $500,
that's holding up your whole trailer.
It drives me crazy that they're just not. There should be some kind of law that says these rigs, double axle, should absolutely come with some sort of suspension system, right? It's just so for really cheap, you can put that on yourselves. You can have it done at a shop, but I think that's a gadget that you literally, when we put that whole new system on from Moride, when I went over, we had it put on, and we went over a speed bump, and we were where I typically felt the speed bump with our old system. Like you didn't, it flexed the way it was manufactured to flex, and it felt so smooth. And I was like, what, $500? Like, we should have did this when we first started. So
a surge protector.
Oh, you have to get a surge protector. Don't listen to anybody that tells you don't have a surge protector for your rig. We were at two places, one in North Carolina and one in Tennessee, where there was an actual power surge at the panel, and it back fed through, and it completely burned up people's interior inverters and their fuse boxes. And we were at a place where the surge blew up our actual our surge protector twice. So at two different places. But I was like, holy cow, can you imagine?
Better a $300 surge protector.
Yeah, than thousands of dollars of maintenance going through. So a surge protector is an absolute must. And
then so disc brakes is the other one that I think that's a bigger expense, and that's something that, like, depending on how you travel and how often, but going from the electric drum brakes to the hydraulic disc brakes it was night and day. It was a huge difference.
It is a big deal
for safety.
It's like
really big,
especially if you're traveling over mountains a lot. If you're a full timer, like, these are a couple of the things that you might want to consider just to keep yourself a little bit safer. We put the D-Max disc brakes on in Florida. When we came over the Colorado mountains, speaking of Colorado, like, it was night and day. I could use my manual override, and my disc brakes slowed both our truck and my rig completely down. But
I was way less stressed. I was less
as opposed to the old drum brakes, So that, and like she said, that's a little bit higher of an expense. But if you're going to go full time and you're, like, actually thinking about, like, I always look at it as a video game. Like, we're in this video game. This is our rank. How do I power up? How do I get that next, like, Mario? Like, what am I saving my coins for? That's going to protect us long term, And that's one of those that I'm like, oh God, we had to pull the trigger, but it was 100% worth it, and easy to install. I did it myself.
And then headlamp. Get a headlamp.
Ooh,
I think having a headlamp's always a good idea for everybody.
I like the headlamps that you can charge too. Like, we keep two rechargeable instead of the battery operated ones, because I've used those quite a bit. Get yourself the right caulk.
You gotta have caulk.
You gotta have the right caulk out here on
RV. Make sure that you got enough of that.
And don't put
you heard it here first. You gotta have the right one.
You do. There's so many different colors and stickiness. And, so you gotta do that. And the other thing is good internet. So if you're going to be full time, like, as much as everybody wants to disconnect, if you're going to be on the road for a significant period of time, that you need to have reliable internet. We started out with just hotspots on our phones. And, that kind of worked. And if you're working, you can't rely on campground Wi-Fi. We've been at places where it's fantastic, but you can't rely on it. So we work with OTR Mobile, and we have their stuff. They have, like, one we actually take in the car that's like a little cell phone size. And then we have their one that we plug in, and we run everything off of it. And then we actually have Starlink as a backup.
Yeah, like if we're out boondocking
we turn that off most of the time. And we did spend the money up front because there were a couple places where, like, cell-based, there's places where it won't work. No matter what carrier you have, if it's cell-based, it's not going to work when you're next to a national preserve and there's no cell towers for it to, triangulate off of. So we spent the money on I think when Best Buy got Starlink and it was like on some deal, we bought the device and then we've had it paused for 8 months, I think.
Yeah.
And we,
it's nice.
we activated
gone
it if
up
we
in
need
price,
to, but having reliable internet, because you want to be able to pull up your routes. You want to be able to, have entertainment. You want to be able to do your job if you need to work, and watch the weather. Like the other thing, I use the emergency app, the Red Cross app. We unfortunately came across Texas during like tornado season this year, and
May
it was terrible.
June, it was horrible.
But pay attention to the weather. Pay attention, you will pay attention to the weather more RVing than you have in your entire life, because it's not just your weather where you're from, because you're going all over, right? So when we were in Nevada, we were like, okay, well, we're going to get 2 feet of snow. So we know that tomorrow morning's going to suck. We're going to have to wait. We're going to have to plow. We're going to whatever. And then it's going to mostly melt off and it'll be fine in a day. But when you're like, wait a minute, I have to know the weather in these 4 places. I think we left, was it on our way to Amarillo? And I forget where we pulled out of, but I literally looked back out the window and I was like, it looks like the Wizard of Oz behind us. Like it's got that green tinge. And he was like,
it's gonna hail.
It was, oh my gosh. He's like, we have
hammer down.
We have 3/4 of a tank of gas. And I was like, just go, just
slow
keep
down.
Going. Don't, it was Abilene.
One time, don't slow down.
That's right.
And we stayed ahead of it, but I was just like, don't stop. So yeah, pay attention to the weather.
Trying to think. Yeah.
Okay.
I think those
that was,
are,
well, you guys, it sounds like you got kind of figured out how to keep this thing up and maintain, how to make it a better, smoother ride, how to make it safer for everybody involved, not only for yourselves, other people on the road, because disc brakes and all that. There's a lot that goes into it. Power surging. You used to talk about power surge. You also talk power dips, because if you get a surge protector that does both, you're saving yourselves thousands in the long run, because I guess I didn't know that low voltage can mess you up just as much as high voltage. So that's another big plus on there. But I'm sure you have some of those in there. So everybody watching, check out their link tree, because they probably have discounts in there.
And use the truck pumps. If you drive a diesel truck and you're towing your trailer, we pull into the truck pumps. We're as quick as we can be, but like you don't have to worry about getting stuck in a gas station with somebody's like Mazda Miata in front of you pulling in sideways and trying to navigate that. So we plan out all of our fuel stops in advance so that we're not like, oh, we need fuel. Where are we going to go? Guess what? The clearance there's 12 feet. We can't get in.
I saw a really cool thread the other day from truckers, because there was somebody that was bad-mouthing RVers using the truck pumps. I'm like, what? Why would they do that? And all of these truckers came on and were just attacking this guy. Like, we would so much rather see the RV people in there using the truck pumps. They're in, they're out, they're quick, they're efficient. And
instead they're not getting stuck in the
they're
other
not
side.
Getting stuck on the other side, which backs up traffic around where the truckers pull out. Like, the truck pumps are, they're high flow. So I guess pay attention to that if you're new. They come out of the truck pumps because they're filling up 400-gallon tanks. So they come out super fast. But use the truck pumps because that's what they're for. So we can get under there safely.
Yeah. Some gas stations have them now for regular, like Mavericks. The Mavericks out west are now putting in separate islands where they have the high flow diesel, and then they'll have 3 or 4 pumps next to it that are the same size in the same island as the truck pumps, but they're both gas and regular flow diesel, which I think is super cool. I think that's like, it's cool to see some of the changes that happened since like we've been on the road. Like those didn't exist, 3 years ago. And now we're seeing some of that stuff. Or like when we first started, there weren't options for internet. Now there are lots of options for internet. So it's kind of cool seeing how like society and everything changes to meet those needs as people show them.
Yeah.
Well, guys, you guys have been incredibly insightful, giving me tons of information, giving everybody listening a crap load of information. So
probably too
this
much.
is going to be probably
Shut
perfect.
Up,
More the merrier. Like I have zero cares about time. I'm not even hungry, so that's good. We've kind of covered this a little bit. You may have hinted at it a couple times, but I love to ask, what's your why? Why do you keep doing it? Why do you want to do this? Like, what is the reason behind it all? Why do you full-time RV?
So I think like everybody else, it starts out, you want to spend more time with your family. But I think as we've gone 3 years now, I've circled back to realizing that our old life, the 9 to 5, I was gone so much. She was working so much. Like, life is super short. And so if you don't capture the moments you have, like I'm thinking about Wesley, my boy, like he's 10 years old right now, and he's going through this phase where he's definitely an older boy. And like, we're not playing Legos. I'm not playing cars anymore. And I'm like, man, like it's sad. It's sad to me. But at the same time, I've been with him every single day for 3 years now. I realize the further I get away from our old life, I realize how society's norms, the white picket fence, it doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely nothing. If I were to die tomorrow, nobody in my old job would give two craps. They would fill my position super fast. But the ones that would be sad is Kestra and my two kiddos. And the fact that every single day we can be together, I can watch them grow up. I could teach them what they need to learn. We grow together. Like we have never been closer than we are right now. And I really do believe the further you get out here, you start making healthier choices. And it's not just about us as a family, it's us as ourselves as an individual. Being out here on the road for us has really changed our health mindset, our physical fitness mindset. Like I always worked out because of the military, but like we're way smarter about it now. But what we put into our bodies now is so much better. So I think the longer you stay out here, the more I'm like, we stay out here because it's completely changing and redeveloping who we are.
You have more time to think.
We have more peace for yourself. You really, really, truly start to believe or see how your old life, the people that were in your jobs, yeah, they were great. There were some good people that I'm holding on to, but I worked in one department for 16 years and I talked to 3 of those guys. And the people that I thought would reach out to me the most, I have not talked to one single time, not once.
And it's okay.
And it's fine. But the longer I get out here, the more I realize my position and my place in those areas, and where, like, if I told my kiddos, like when I went on our deer hunt, I was gone for a week. And they were sad, and they were like they were missing something, you know. And when I came back, I missed them out there. So that's why on our elk hunt, we all went together. And I think the biggest why is just growing together as a family and seeing what that, because we don't even know what it's going to bring, you know. Like I felt like in our old life, you know, you're going to do school, you're going to do athletics, we're going to do this next summer, but in this life, when you break free from that old life, you don't have any people over you telling you what to do and how you can live, and if you can take your sick leave or if you can't. We're actually growing together, and we come to a new place and we find out something we love together, going into the national parks that we're going into, hiking. Wesley right now, and Ellie, she's riding her bike on our runs, but the other day we've been planning our stay where we're at right now and creating what we're calling the Boundless boot camp. And it's just basically our family working out. We have a whole gym set up right behind us, but we've been kind of motivating Wesley, right? And we kind of put some responsibility on Wesley. So he creates our dinner schedule. So he creates the whole entire week-long dinner schedule. But we started running with him. And after his first run, you know, he made it like a quarter of a mile, and then he stopped. And then the next day it was a half mile. And now this morning when we went for our run, he's like, I really like running. And I'm like, who would have thought, right? So 10. That's what you're learning. It's just, Ellie, she jumps on her bike and she's running her bike and she's with us every second. But it's the unknown. I would say that I'm like, not only do we love ourselves and we love being with each other, and it's definitely about your tiny little bubble of family and close friends that you really want to give your time to, because the people around you, the naysayers, the haters, they don't matter. None of their opinions matter. What matters is your small group of people and the unknown. And like Wesley coming up to us and being like, I love running, Daddy. And I'm like,
and you get to be there for all those moments. Like you're not like, oh, your teacher told me that you had this whatever today. Like and maybe that's kind of selfish. I don't know. But like we made these people. So I like to be able to see them like experience, you know, overcome challenges. And like, and I think like for me too, thinking about people who work so hard, like you knew so many people who would get out of the fire department, they would retire at 57 years old. And then within 2 years, I think, you know, 4 guys who had heart attacks and died. And, you know, they work. And like my dad passed away 13 years ago when we were just dating, and he was, you know, 58 years old and had a heart attack and died, and, you know, was still working. And I think about like all the stuff that people always say, like, oh yeah, when I retire, when I this, when I that. And I think that there's a way that you can balance doing those things now and still being responsible, because that's the other hate that we get a lot is people like, oh, you probably have a trust fund, or, oh, you're stupid and you're in debt, or how do you do all this? But I think, right. But there's a way that you can do the things you want to do and have the experiences and still be responsible. It just takes that, that balance of how you do it. And so I think like that's our why. You want to say
that right there?
What's up, Wesley? How's it going, buddy?
Good.
Good. Sounds like you like running and you like making money. So this kid's going to do some great things. We got an opportunity for you, buddy.
He said he's got sales stuff. If you want to, he's like, wait, tomorrow, when do we set up a call, Jake?
We'll work on it.
So I think that's it. And then also the travel. Like now that we're able to travel, like we want to do it. We love seeing new places, and we love like after, we stayed 4 months in the same town this summer, working on our little property and doing stuff. And we still traveled a little bit like here and there, but like you kind of get this like rhythm of like, okay, now I'm ready to like go and do something else and see somewhere else. And so I think it just kind of, I don't know, we feel like it has kind of like changed our whole personalities, and it's improved our marriage. Like if you can live in 300 square feet with your spouse, you're good. Like,
because you learn everything and you hear everything.
Yeah, good and bad.
Yes.
Well, guys, it's been incredibly awesome talking to you guys. It's one of my favorite ones. I'm going to put it up there. I'm going to put a little star in the asterisk and everything.
All right.
Yeah. I can be sweet sometimes.
All right.
But anyway, you guys are full of information. You guys are full of life. I can see it in you. You guys are this whole thing about like going together and creating your own life within this normality of all the chaos. And I don't like it. I hate the fact that I have to sit in the same chair every day. It drives me nuts. Luckily, I get to talk to people that get to go do this, so it's inspiring for me. But you guys took control of your life, the power of now. You said, I'm going to go do it, and you're living their best lives. So it seems to me. And you said you're raw and real, and you're showing everybody else that. So I kudos to you guys. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
And is there anything else that you would like to share before we kind of wrap it up here?
Ooh.
I think that's kind of it. I think RV life is perfect for like, you get to explore and you get to go to all these new places, but like you get to sleep in your own bed every night.
Yeah.
So you have that like normalcy and that stability, but you still get an adventure. So
adventure. I think that's the biggest one. I think all of us we're supposed to do so much more here on Earth. And I think the small time you get true adventure, traveling and seeing different cultures and seeing different things.
Getting scared sometimes.
Getting scared. We put ourselves out there sometimes, but I truly believe that you could make any job work out here on the road. There's so many opportunities out here for you. You don't have to do social media influencing. I think that's a very, very small percentage of what people even do out here. But when they say grab life by the horns, like you don't know when your time is coming, right? We all have an hourglass and we don't know when that sand is going to run out. So if you're listening to this, like take the step, take the jump and go live an adventure, even if you only do it for a year. But at the same time, just go live life and I will say that I do believe it took me 6 months. It took me 6 months to slowly get into a rhythm that was shedding our old life. It took me a year and a half to get over the military lifestyle, our old lifestyle, especially if you've been in the same rhythm for many years, you wake up at the same time. It takes a little bit of time. So as you're transitioning in that first part of your nomadic adventure, realize like you got to shed a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff attached to you that you don't even know about. Yeah. And once you start breaking through that and you've got your rhythm down, life is going to be different. Your life is going to mean more to you, and life is going to mean more to you. So don't be scared.
Like when we stopped setting an alarm to wake up in the morning, that was like, whoa, okay, this is weird. Let's do it.
That sounds wonderful. My body wakes me up at like 7 every day. It doesn't matter, but either way, like the days that I need it, I'll sleep till 10. Like it does. My body just does it sometimes.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Jake.
This has been awesome.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate that. It was something I wanted to start a while ago, and they gave me the chance, and here we are killing it. So
yeah, see, that's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that you guys took your time out of your day, because I mean, there's things that you got to do. This isn't making you money by no means, and I apologize for that. But
that's all right.
Right.
You're sharing your story, and I really appreciate the light you guys bring to this whole conversation. So, that being said, everybody out there listening, give them a follow, James and Kester. They are raw and real, and they let you know how it really is. And they also have stuff out there. Yeah, their link tree out there. You're going to find some discounts. I don't know what's all in there, but you guys can check it out, see what's in there. And also, if you guys are interested in BishFix, use promo code RVVoice, because it will help you. I swear to you. If you want to take your RV in for 90 days, let it sit there and make payments on it, by all means do so. Or you could do it in a third of the time or a quarter of the time if you go through BishFix. That being said, if you guys have nothing else, James Ketcher, thank you very much. Wesley and Ellie and the puppers, I saw them. Thank you for joining for this short amount of time. Everybody else out there listening, stay tuned for more from the RV Voice.